Hey guys, so I just want to say first of all, hello and welcome to all these new subscribers that I'm getting. I don't know what is going on, why my horror channel's popping off like it is, but I appreciate you guys and I hope that I won't disappoint you with the content and the, you know, scheduling and things like that. So feel free, all you newbies, to request what you would like to see on my channel because it's the new year, trying out some new content this year, so I am open to suggestions. So today I'm going to be talking about Escape Room. Now, I can't really go further into this review without talking about the huge coincidence that happened while I was watching it and what I realized while I was watching it. So in case you didn't know, there was a tragic fire accident where 5 teen girls were killed while doing an escape room in Poland. And now the reason why this is a coincidence and why I'm mentioning it, not just because it took place in an escape room, was it happened the day that the movie Escape Room was released. If that's not enough of a coincidence for you, as I was watching the film, I realized when the character Amanda in the film picks up a newspaper, it says 5 die in fire. Now, I knew going into watching Escape Room, because I saw it the day after it came out, I knew that the tragedy had occurred because a lot of you guys had commented on my previous video that I had posted. So then when I saw that happen, I was like, are you kidding me? It was just very shocking and very surprising to me. And actually, the release date for Escape Room has been postponed in many countries out of respect for the girls that had been killed and their families. But it was still released. I did see it, so we are here to talk about it. So on a lighter note, I do want to mention that the first horror movie of the year is doing great in the box office. I'm very excited about that. We have some amazing horror movies obviously coming out. I think this year will really be a great year for horror, and so far it's doing really well as a genre, so I'm excited about that. So this is directed by Adam Robitel, who did Insidious: The Last Key and also The Taking of Deborah Logan. I mentioned this kind of in my last video, so I won't get too into it or too into the plot or anything, because I think we've all seen the trailer at this point. Most of you have probably seen the movie at this point, maybe, and most of you have probably seen my last video where I talked about it. So a group of 6 strangers are invited via a cube puzzle to do this elite escape room where they are promised $10,000. Now, the reason why in my last video I said they were promised $1 million is because they say that in the trailer.
Be the first to escape our most immersive room yet
and win $1 million.
I'm not sure why they did this and then changed it in the movie, because even if you add up the sum of money that they all are going to receive, it's not even close to $1 million. So I'm not sure if they wanted that in the trailer to make it seem more extreme or make it seem more justifiable that they would go through with an escape room like that, because you see more in the trailer obviously of like the extremeness of the escape room. So spoiler-free review is this: I really enjoyed the movie much more than I thought I was going to. I thought honestly it was going to be kind of cheesy and full of bad CG, but everything was done really well. I thought the acting was really good. The character that I really liked the most was played by Tyler Labine, which I had no idea he was even in it when I saw the trailer. He looks so different to me. If you don't know him, he's from Tucker and Dale vs. Evil and the show Reaper, which are the 2 ways that I know and love him. Luckily, they saved the cheesiness until the last 10 minutes of the film. I was honestly very impressed with the different rooms. They are unbelievable to look at, and they're so like haunting and like horrifying, and I was blown away by these rooms. And they really capture you in the first scene that you see, which is from later in the movie. So they kind of do that thing where they show you a clip of the movie from later in the very beginning, like the first scene, to make you suspect what's going to be happening. And now it does not have a strong ending by any means. I was not a fan of it. It really bothered me, but I am willing to forgive it and recommend you see this in theaters if possible, because of the rooms and like the effects and just everything going on. The story is actually really good. You get to know the characters individually, and I really liked that aspect. I was not expecting to like the characters or get to know them or have a backstory to them, but you really do, and I think that is really good and well done in the film. I also think this movie is a great movie for non-horror fans because it is more of a suspense thriller action movie than it is a true horror, although I still define it as a horror movie. And there's also not very much gore either, so if you're squeamish or you're not into that, I think that's another reason why this is great for non-horror fans. So one of my biggest gripes, however, with this movie is that all of the information is spoon-fed to the viewer, and this, I hate when movies do this. I don't know if it's just me being an avid horror fan, but I hate when they do this because it makes me feel dumb. It's like they don't trust me to make the connections that they worked hard on in the movie to like make, so then they tell you everything that you need to know and spoon feed you all this information. And I feel like a lot of horror movies are doing that nowadays, especially, instead of letting the viewer kind of come to their own conclusions, which I think is a fun aspect to movies to do that. And I think this movie would have been better had they not told us literally everything we needed to know and had a whole scene explaining everything. You know, one thing that they say in creative storytelling is show, don't tell, and I feel like this movie could have really used that advice. I think they showed enough information for us to be able to make the connections that they are so obviously trying to make, but instead they showed us and then also told us on top of that, so it was just kind of overdone. And it's like, I'm not dumb, like I could have figured that out. So I describe this movie as very Saw meets Cabin in the Woods without the gore. So obviously it's a lot like Saw in that they have to do these puzzles and things like you do in a traditional escape room. However, they're not like grinding their body parts in traps and things like that. I've heard most people say it's more like Saw and the Belko experiment, which I did review. I guess I'll link it if you're curious. I wasn't really a fan of it. I don't know. You can definitely see that there's inspiration from other films in this movie, but it is still a very original idea, I think. However, there are people saying that there's an escape room movie on Netflix that's pretty bad, so let me know if you want me to watch that. So now I'm going to get into spoilers and how the movie ended like 5 times and how it should have ended way before it did and all this kind of stuff. So I'm gonna get into that right now. If you haven't seen it and don't want to know, tune out now. So my other biggest issue with this film, isn't it great? I only have 2 big issues with the film. Unfortunately, they're 2 major issues and that take up most of the movie. So like I mentioned, they start the movie with a part of the movie that you think is going to be the ending, which is where Ben is being crushed by this like library room thing where he can't figure out the last puzzle and you think he dies. So this actually happens like 3/4 of the way into the movie. So I don't mind that they did that because what you see in the beginning isn't actually the truth, or what you may assume happens afterwards isn't what happens ultimately in the end. So I don't hate that they started with that clip. I think if anything, it really added to the movie. But in your head you're like, okay, so Ben is the final one that makes it to the end of the movie, obviously, but clearly doesn't escape, so everyone dies. That's what you think, but that's not what happens. There's a twist at the end where the character Zoe is still alive and she comes to save the day after Ben like escapes, you know, and didn't mind that twist. I just didn't like everything that transpired afterwards. I feel like it should have ended shortly after that. It's just really unrealistic from there on out. So basically they have this character who's portrayed as a very shy and timid girl, and then all of a sudden she can take down 2 guards, pick up their gun, know how to use the gun, and I just think it's a final girl trope that is overplayed at this point, where the girl learns how to become a badass and just knows how to work a gun when that's not even related to her character at all. I just find that whole thing very unrealistic, but maybe I'm just nitpicking. So then they escape, right? After some things go down, they both survive, and then she tries to tell the police about this escape room that they just got out of and how there's like this whole corporation that is like exploiting people and like creating this, and I don't know. And so they go to the building where she says this escape room is, and it's nowhere to be found. There's not one sign of this escape room, which for any old escape room I would believe, but you're telling me that none of this?
Got it!
Talk about immersive.
Are we outside? The sooner we get this figured out, the sooner we get the hell out of here.
Who would do this?
Was remaining? None of it? I don't know how much time had passed from when they made it to the hospital and she told them and then they went and investigated. I don't know if it was supposed to be weeks after, a day after. I'm not really sure what that time frame was, so I don't know how long this company had to like deconstruct this escape room situation, because if you've seen the trailer, you can see how extreme this escape room is, and the fact that they could just break it down and have no sign or trace of it whatsoever. And then I thought that this was a fake out ending and that it was in her head the whole time. And I was gonna be like, no. I could actually feel my body when I thought this was the case. I just like collapsed in my chair a little. I was like, are you kidding me? Of course, that's not what happens. So then we get to the fourth ending, where I think it's gonna end again, and it's them, Zoe and Ben, chilling Final Destination style, drinking their coffee, and Zoe plans on taking them down. She's like, they can't get away with this, and then Ben finally agrees, and then they decide to fly to where this corporation is and take them down and destroy them. And then we see a plane escape room. But wait, it's just a test. They're just testing out this escape room for Ben and Zoe with a very low success rate, so the company thinks that they're going to die in this escape room. We don't get to see that happen, obviously, because that's where finally the movie ends. Now, people say that they're excited about this ending because it leaves it open to a possible sequel. Adam Robitel did say if the movie was successful, he'd be open to making more sequels. And even Bloody Disgusting says that it can and should and probably will spawn the next hit horror franchise. So they say it is revealed in the Game Master's info dump that the organization's customers have previously bet on games featuring college athletes and savants as the players, hinting at the endless potential for the escape room franchise. If Sony is so inclined, and as long as audiences remain interested, sequels to this year's first horror hit could center on all kinds of unique character groupings, allowing for each film in the franchise to have a unique twist on it. As for the actual escape rooms, well, the sky is clearly the limit when it comes to their design. I don't hate the idea of this becoming a whole franchise and multiple sequels being made, but we all remember Final Destination 4. Like, we can't forget, not all sequels are great, so it does make me nervous that they're gonna create some flops in there just because it was successful and because they know that they can make money on it. I don't want that to be a motivating factor. I want it to actually be like a progression of the story and interesting rooms and characters and things like that. So hopefully that's what they have in mind more than money. But what isn't driven by money in Hollywood, right? I did love every single room that they created and how it got weirder and weirder as they went along, and it was just so strange and bizarre and was not what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be cheesy, like I said, with bad CG, but it wasn't. It was really good. So if they do continue, I hope they keep that level of, you know, quality of the rooms and the characters, because the acting was great and the rooms were great and the story and the backstory were great. So I know I'm kind of all over the place with this review, but there were big things that stood out to me that I didn't like, but everything else was really good and well done in my opinion, and I liked this movie way more than I thought I would. If you've seen the movie, please feel free to leave your review down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.